Good day, and welcome to this edition of Plymouth Profiles. Plymouth Profiles is an opportunity to meet with people who are busy in the greater Plymouth area. And this time we're welcoming back Michelle Badger. You may remember the last time that she was with us, she was serving as chair of the Plymouth School Committee. Since that time, we've had an election, and she has successfully been elected as the state representative for the town of Plymouth, and we welcome her back. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So Michelle, for people who may not have seen the last presentation, give us a little bit of your background.
Well, my professional background is higher education administration with fundraising. So I was at Suffolk and Mass Maritime, Massasoit, and then I was on the school committee here in Plymouth for 13 years on No Place for Hate and a variety of other committees.
And the last time you were chair and now you're not, how did the transition occur?
So my last meeting was December 6th, I believe, no, 16th, I think it was. And so it gave them enough time they had to do 1 month of posting for that open seat. So that open seat could be posted. That person that is appointed to that position can then hold it until May when we have our town elections. And that person and others can choose to run for that remaining 1 year on my term. And then they'll have to run the following year for the 3-year term if they so choose. So that has happened. It's Christina Bryant has filled that seat. And then I believe it was just the other night that Luis Pisano is the chair of the school committee now.
Good. And who did the appointing?
It's a combination between the school committee and the select board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. So, when were you sworn in?
Gosh, January 1, we were there. I was there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, I think.
On the holiday?
On the holiday. It's in the... I think it's by statute that it has to be on January 1st, and so we were all there ready to be sworn in on the holiday. That was my mom's reaction. She was like, they do know you're not supposed to leave your house, and you're just supposed to watch movies and laze around on January 1st, and I was like, well, usually, but not this one. You can, I can't.
So what was it like? What was the swearing in?
Oh, it was a really cool experience just to be part of all that pomp and circumstance. It's been going on for, hundreds of years. What's it, 194th session. So it was really cool. And, you get to sit in the seat, and I have Representative Moratoria's old seat right now and sitting next to the people and just getting to know and meet people that I, wouldn't have had any other interaction with from all over the state who are reps, both Democrats, Republicans, and independent.
So do you have any staff?
I do. Nicole Manfredi is my legislative aide,
Okay.
but that is all the staff we have. So we're a mighty team, 1st Plymouth District.
Okay, and if people want to contact you or Nicole, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can do it it's michelle.badger@mahouse.gov is our email. I don't have the phone number memorized yet, but wait, I think I have it in my pocket. Hold on. I can tell you in 2 seconds. It is 617-722-2000. And then that number will ask you who you want to speak to, and it'll prompt you to get right to to our office.
Okay. And so your office is up at the State House?
Yes, we have an office at the State House, but we also have a district office that with Representative Lenatra and Senator Fernandes at Cordage, Building 10, Suite 229.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Right.
But right now my office in the State House, in the beginning they put all the new reps in what they call the bullpen. And so we have 2 different rooms that the 19 of us are spread amongst. And Nicole and I sit just like you, and we've got the next rep and their aide on the next, and it just keeps going down the dais. And then we have 2 or 4 folding tables that also have reps on them and their staff. So it's a nice way to get to know each other and really have that camaraderie and just to figure out what we're doing together.
So if somebody wanted to meet with you in person as an office hour, would they go to Boston or would they come to Plymouth?
They can come to Plymouth, they can go to Boston. We can figure out whatever works for their schedule. We also are doing office hours at the Center for Active Living once a month. So we have, we're doing Kathy or Representative Lenatra and I are doing I think it's the 2nd Tuesday of the month. We're going to be in Town Hall during their extended hours, and we're going to be there, I think, on the 4th floor, do some office hours there. And we've planned, I think it's 6 months out so far. I believe Federal Furnace we have on February 5th. We'll be there from 6 to 7. Another opportunity, we've got locations for our dates for Redbrook. We have, trying to get all over the district. And I think we've got the Manamet Library. And so we're really just want to get out there and happy to meet at those times, or we're happy to meet at any point. If you just shoot us an email or a phone call, we can look at our schedule and see what works best.
I think that's smart because, when I first moved back to Plymouth many years ago, I remember people talking about still going out to eat in Boston. Then as the years go on, they didn't want to stay in Plymouth. And lots of times now people want to stay within their precinct. So
exactly.
So to go to them, particularly seniors, I think, many of them at night don't want to travel far. So
and the word representative is in the title. Like I'm there to be your representative, so I want to have those conversations. That's why during the campaign I knocked on 9,000 doors. It's all about those relationships and how we can help, because there's so much we can do in the office that people don't even realize. And we've been doing Friday updates, trying to do a minute or two about what has happened that week, what we've gone to, and what we're looking forward to do the next week. And I posted something about helping people with unemployment, and they were struggling getting unemployment, and we were able to quickly fast track that. So if people just don't know those are the resources, and we had several people reach out being like, oh, I didn't know that was something you could help with. So unemployment, housing issues, the gamut we can help with, or we can at least try to make those appropriate connections.
So when you say post, is there a website or a Facebook?
Facebook and Instagram. We're hoping to have a website by middle of February, maybe end of February, give us a little time. But we'll have a website up with an opportunity to put those, all of our videos on. But we've been doing Instagram, Facebook, and a little bit of TikTok. And we have a YouTube that I'm hoping this weekend to be able to update with our videos. But we're trying to get that out there.
This will be on YouTube. You can link this to
exactly.
what you're doing. So you say you knocked on a lot of doors. I think you said 9,000.
Yeah.
And you talked to your constituents.
Yeah.
What did you hear during the campaign were top issues?
Oh, I think it's what, we all kind of know the housing and affordability pieces are huge in Plymouth. So those are things that we're going to be looking at, co-sponsoring some stuff that is related to housing and see what we can do to move that forward for Plymouth. We heard, obviously, we've got the whole tech. We've got people on both sides who have reached out and were talking to us on the doors, as well as since then to have conversations. So that, the lack of diversity in the workforce in Plymouth, what different opportunities. So many people have to go to Boston, like we talked about. Not enough people feel that there's a variety of opportunities in Plymouth for them to be able to live, work, and play here. And so that's one of the things, we talked a lot about sustainable economic development in our community.
So we're taping this in the end of January.
Yep.
Coming into February. And currently there's a lot of talk about the freezing of certain federal funding.
Yep.
And affecting local programs. I heard yesterday someone from Plymouth telling me that they had a friend who worked for the blind in Massachusetts, and the program is frozen and they may not have a job. Now, if it's federal, it seems to me we go to our federal delegation and talk to them. But for people in Plymouth, it's a lot easier for them to reach you than to reach their senator or congressman. How do you work as a state rep with local officials? And we got the state officials and then the federal. How does that work?
I'm just figuring out, but a lot of it is just that communications piece. Senator Markey's folks, we've been in connection with on a couple of things already, trying to help people in the district or just asking questions and then being able to get the resources that we need. So I know that there are people in each of their offices that are connecting points that will help us, as well as Congressman Keating's office. And then we had a meeting last week, I think, with the town officials. So we had select board members who were in and out to make sure there was no quorum breaking or open meeting law breaking. And then we had different appointed officials from the different like police, fire, HHS, all those different entities within Plymouth, and we talked about their needs, what their priorities are, and so that was a nice like conversation to get kind of that 101 overview. But there's other ways, like I just had with Michelle Brady, we were having a conversation the other day about a hole that is in the communications with the variety of food pantries that we have. And so we were talking about, is there something we can do to bring the groups together and work with Nicole in our office and Kathy's office and really just put something together like a round table to talk about how they can move forward as a unified group, but also work independently, but have that communication. So it's just about that connections, it's about community building like anything is. So making those relationships with people or continuing the relationships with the people on the town level, really deepening the level of relationships on the federal, and then learning and meeting all the members in the state. There's so many. There's 200 others, 160 state reps, 40 senators. So it's all about meeting and talking to people.
And you mentioned Senator Markey, and have you also reached out to Senator Warren's office?
Yeah, we haven't had any like direct need to reach out to her quite yet. We're only like 29 days in. So, but I'm sure we will. And during the campaign, I know I was her office provided a lot of information to help us as we were, figuring some stuff out or asking questions.
Now, at the local level, I think before we came on, I think we saw Casey from the town who helps with
communications,
right? So will you be connecting with her office as well to try to communicate to the town?
Yeah, we've already been sharing all the things that Casey put out there with bird flu, for instance, and trying to make sure we can just amplify the platform for the town if we're able to do that. Working in a variety of different ways. However we can partner, it's really important.
So I found over the years, being an elected official in Plymouth, that no one communication method is going to work for all.
Yep, same.
So we're doing TV today, cable TV, and there are some people that watch it and only get their information locally from cable TV.
Yep.
Other people only get it from written, such as The Independent now.
Yep.
Other people get it from WATD.
Yep.
There are so many different ways, and of course you've talked about social media. Is it your plan to use a multi-pronged approach for communicating?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I said, we were doing those videos on social media, so hopefully we'll get those out further. I know I had the opportunity to go on WATD, I think 2 weeks ago now. I was on with Kevin, so that was really good to be able to be on his show, and I think he said he'd have me back in 5 or 6 weeks, or if there's ever anything I want to talk about, to let him know. And I know there's a couple other like times on WATD that people have reached out to say, hey, we're going to be in contact with you for something like this, or obviously happy to work with the Plymouth Independent if there's something that we can, if they have questions or if I can answer anything, or like we did with the schools, we helped Dr. Campbell write a kind of a briefing for the Plymouth Independent about our budget. And so how can we best work? Because like you said, everybody is taking in their information in a different way. And so how can we get to everybody? We're not going to, so we have to use all platforms, and we have to partner with the people with the different platforms and the different people that they reach. So
now, we've had a lot of redistricting in Plymouth, and I was in one precinct for most of my adult life, and now I'm in a different one. I think you're my state rep. But of course, really, as a town official, both you and Kathy Lenatra are my state rep.
Yes, exactly.
And so my question is, how does a Plymouth resident who may not know who the rep is assigned to their precinct, how do they know who to contact, or how do you divide up responsibilities if you do?
I mean, we do it based on precinct. So if someone reaches out to us and we look up their address and they're in Kathy's precinct, we're happy to just send it over to Kathy and they'll deal with it, vice versa. Some of the things we'll do together. We do a lot of things together, but just because, like you said, we're one town, we're one community. Right. And so that's really important. And, I talked to Kathy. She probably wishes I didn't have her cell phone number with the number of times I've had to call and text her and ask her little questions. But she's been wonderful kind of helping with that transition, and her staff is phenomenal, and we've got that office that we also have with Senator Fernandes, so it's really helpful to have the working relationship that Dylan, Kathy, and I have, since we've, I've only just recently gotten to know Dylan through the campaign the last year, but like I've known Kathy for a really long time.
Yeah. So again, we're about a month into your first term
Yep.
as state representative. Anything surprise you?
I guess just like the chaos. I mean, I've always had chaotic schedules in my life. Between having my school committee hat, my full-time job, the other hats I wear in other parts of our community as well as outside of our community, and then running for the campaign. So the last year has been a little bit crazy anyways. But now in this role, just trying to figure out like what it's going to look like. I think that's what days are we in the district, what days do we go to Boston. That's all being worked out, and I feel like a lot of the rest of my classmates, as we call it, the 19 new state reps, are in that same boat, just trying to figure out what days a week you go into Boston and what days you don't, and how we can best be able to predict our schedule and be able to say, hey, we've got that wonderful space in Quarters Park. I'd love to be able to say every Monday you can find us between here and here, or every Friday here and here. So we're getting there. I think it's just being able to figure out and like set a schedule that's going to work. And we'll have a little hiccups here and there because things change and sessions happen, and so. But I think that's the most thing that surprised me, and just everyone is so wonderful. Everyone has been so helpful.
Is the class of new state reps about the same size as usual?
So ours is smaller than last time. I believe they were 23 and we're 19, but we're average. I think we're right around the average size. I think way back they had 43 members one year when there was a full changeover on the state level.
And it may not surprise you to know that I know another one of the members of your class very well.
I'm shocked. I'm sure. It's Mark.
Mark Sylvia, that's right. So congratulations to Mark Sylvia,
yes.
who was formerly an assistant town manager here, and he is now a state representative.
Yes.
So you know him?
Yes.
And did you know him before he became state rep?
I didn't. I mean, I knew of him. I knew who he was, but I think I would just moved back here when he left Plymouth, and so I didn't have any interaction with him before, but it's been really wonderful getting to know him. And that's another thing about all of our classmates. Everyone has an area of expertise or an area of knowledge or something that you can go to and ask, and that's what's great, and Mark is full of so much knowledge for his years of town and then his clean energy work, so yeah.
So we have 2 state reps, although it's nice to have Mark also as a third who's in there and would at least understand the needs of Plymouth because he worked here.
Yeah, he's always like, hey, do you know this person, or do you remember this? I'm like, yep, or hey, what is this person doing? And I'm like, oh yeah.
So what is coming up? When do you start a legislative session?
I mean, the legislative session is moving. It started on January 1. That's when the session started. But we haven't had our first formal session other than the being sworn in. We've had informals. So my understanding is that sometime in early February, the committee chairs will be selected, and then we get placed in the committees that we, whether or not we ask for, whatever committee we get placed. They have asked us what we would be interested in, and then at some point at the end of March-ish, we get an office somewhere that's usually associated with maybe the committee we're on, or if there's just space somewhere.
And what committees interest you?
Obviously education, working in higher ed and then being on our school committee for so long, that really interests me. I also asked for, climate change. I thought that was really important. Because it really impacts us in Plymouth. We also have housing, which impacts us in Plymouth. And I also asked about tourism, arts, and culture to be on. Those are the 4 that I put out there. But really, I say to a lot of students that ask me, or people who I have conversations with, what does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to get involved? And I'm like, well, you never know what you're gonna really have a passion about. I mean, I didn't know how much I would love being on the school committee until I did it. I knew that special education was gonna be important to me, and it was important in decisions that I made, but I had no idea how deep I was gonna get by being on different Pilgrim Area Collaborative and other things, and how close it would get to my heart and how much I would love it. And so for me, wherever I get put, learn something, and we're going to figure out how it impacts Plymouth and how I can best serve Plymouth and the state, obviously. But I'm just excited to figure out what we get, you know.
So you're in the legislative session and you're looking at committees.
Yep.
Have there been any bills or things that have come before you yet that you've debated or discussed?
No. So the bill filing deadline was January 17th. So now it's, I think, January 17th, whatever that Friday was the bill filing deadline by 5 o'clock. And right now all the bills are in the clerk's office, getting assigned numbers and figuring out what committees they go to. That's my understanding. And now is the time that we're looking at co-sponsoring things. We put 19 bills out there, some that Matt had previously, some that the ideas we came up with, others people gave us through conversations, and then some home rules.
Home rule, right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, we've got a couple home rules that we put in. And we've got a bunch of different things that people have asked us to co-sponsor, so it's looking through and weeding through, what is it? They average like 7,000 bills every session, so it's about making sure, and for me, I want to co-sponsor bills, but I want to be smart about it. I want to make sure that what we're doing, like you said, it's just Nicole and I right now for the First Plymouth, and I want to make sure we are using our resources that in the best way we can, because there's work that goes into putting a bill forward, and there's work that goes into co-sponsoring. It's not just like my name's here, sign here, and you're done. It's making sure that when they come up to committee that we write something for it.
Certainly, as the moderator, I'm appreciative that my assistant moderator is with you
Yes.
to help watch the home rule, because sometimes at town meeting we do have votes on home rule matters, and then people will say, where is it? What's happening?
Yep.
And I know in the upcoming April town meeting, which is the first Saturday in April, I think April 5th,
Yep.
we have at least a petitioned article on home rule that I know. So
Yes, we actually have filed with Representative Davis, who's also a new member of the House from Western Mass, and she, in a statewide bill for that same purpose, about being able to advertise things in non-printed media for the town. So if there's something that they need to get out there, a notice that needs to be out there, allowing it to be in entities like the Plymouth Independent. So we have jointly filed that bill as well. So I know it's happening on the home rule end too, but we figured we'd come at it from both directions.
yeah, good. So what do you see coming up this year that would be an issue that you would be discussing, arguing, deliberating, voting?
I think the budget is obviously going to be difficult. We talked earlier, federally there's questions. What kind of what's going to happen there? And then we've seen on the state level with the governor's budget coming out, there are certain things that are really kind of upsetting. You get the Pappas closure, which is a little upsetting when you put your hat on for these kids who are some of our most vulnerable, and in the school in Pecasset as well. So you have the closures of both of those entities, which I think is really unfortunate, and hopefully maybe there's something we can do.
Maybe a little background, why are they closing?
So they're closing it, basically the two schools, or the two hospitals, they're closing because they don't have the numbers that they need to be considered full. I don't know why. There's a lot of things I still need to learn about the situation, and they're closing them and moving the students to, I think, Western Mass, or I think it's a school in Western Mass that they're looking to put the students in. So you're moving them away from teachers and staff and people that they know, and I've heard that there are families who have moved to be closer. So they might have been from Western Mass and they've moved here since, so they could be near their child or their young adult. So there's a lot of questions there, but I think the budget is obviously going to be a difficult one, because we saw went up from $4 to eggs to $6 a dozen or whatever it is. I think I paid $6.50 for 18 on Saturday. So I think it's just looking at things are more expensive, and how are we going to be able to do all the things we want to do in the state? So I'm sure that'll be contentious.
Now, in addition to your relationship with town officials and the federal delegation, tell me a little bit about state officials, specifically not only the governor, but the Attorney General. I'm particularly interested because I heard today that the Attorney General is filing in court on some of the cuts that are happening at the federal level. And it seems that as those things affect us locally in Plymouth, it would be important to have a good relationship with the Attorney General.
Yeah, well, the Attorney General is actually a really good friend of mine. We went through the Emerge program together, so I've known her for years. So I have that piece, but we also have points of contact within the Attorney General's office for different areas that she oversees. So we can make those points of contact for people who might be dealing with an issue personally, or if the town is struggling with something. So yeah, we can. I have a relationship with her.
And what about the county? People often forget about the county, and yet here in Plymouth we've got county buildings, county governmental services.
Yeah, I actually was talking to Tom O'Brien the other night, Matt the other night too. So there's a lot of, back and forth between the two. And, I know this is a piece of legislation we'd like you to look at. And so if I have questions, I can talk to them about what those pieces of legislation are. But no, we're definitely in, we have as you said, the buildings here in Plymouth. So it's something to pay a little bit more attention to. I know we filed a bill we co-sponsored, yes, about the change in classification category for some county employees. So it's it's important that we're paying attention to what's happening there and have good relationships.
So I asked you this the last time, but you've hit the ground running. You're busy. What are you doing in your free time?
Not a whole lot quite yet, but once I get my feet underneath me, I'll be back playing field hockey. I'm back at the gym a couple of days a week, which is nice. Reading, all those fun things, hanging out, we're seeing family and friends. So, trying to make time for that. But right now, it's just we were getting everything set up, and we want to obviously do our best. So I think I'm going to learn boundaries and learn about how to best get schedules right now. But right now, I'm just in the deep end.
And Michelle, if people have just joined us recently and didn't see the whole presentation, what would you want people to remember from this?
I think just to reach out. Really, we're here to be your voice. We're here to have conversation. I want to have those conversations. And, if I can't be there because my schedule is busy, Nicole Manfredi, who is my legislative aide, is more than willing to be part of those conversations as well. But we just want to be the voice, and we want people to know that we're here. And please do not hesitate to reach out.
And one more time, if people do want to reach out,
Michelle,
how do they contact you?
Yeah, michelle.badger@mahhouse.gov is probably the easiest way.
And what about Nicole Manfredi?
And Nicole is nicole.manfredi@mahhouse.gov.
All right.
Yeah.
And
you can follow us on social media too. We have an official account, which is they're both State Rep Michelle Badger on both Instagram and Facebook. So, and we have a Badger for Plymouth at TikTok, but we don't use that as much.
Great. Well, Michelle, thank you for coming back.
Thank you so much.
And we hope you'll join us again in the future.
I look forward to it.
As you get your feet even wetter.
Yeah.
And that completes this part of our presentation today. But please stay tuned. We're going to be joined next by our new state senator, Dylan Fernandes. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to this presentation of Plymouth Profiles, which is an opportunity to meet with people from the greater Plymouth area. And for this segment, we're being joined by another legislator who represents the town of Plymouth. We're delighted to have with us for the first time our new state senator, Dylan Fernandes. Dylan, welcome.
Pleasure to be with you, Steve.
Thank you.
As always.
So Dylan, I usually start off by asking people to give our audience a little bit of your background. Tell us, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
Sure.
How'd you get to where you are now?
Sure. Yeah, well, I grew up on the Cape, lived there for almost my entire life. Of course, went away to college, but then came back to this community and Massachusetts. And I'm a fourth-generation resident of our district. Family came over, as we were talking about, from the Azores 4 generations ago. There were strawberry farmers in our area. This area used to be the biggest exporter of strawberries in the U.S. Back in the day. It did. And so they were strawberry pickers, strawberry farmers. Really hard-working family. And fast forward to now, father. Started a small landscaping company, worked to see it grow. got to witness the reward of his hard work. I was the first person to go off to college in the family, so went away then, and then came back, entered government to give back to the community that's given me so much.
And where'd you go to college?
I went to, well, I bounced around. I started off at American University in Washington, D.C. Was always interested in government and politics. Stock market crashed my freshman year there, which wiped out my college fund. So then I traveled further south to College of Charleston. I knew I didn't want to go to school in Massachusetts. But that was a state school. It cost about half the price, and I finished up there, double majored in economics and political science. And then I went to graduate school, got a master's in public administration at the Harvard Kennedy School in Cambridge.
Good. Mm-hmm. And so tell us a little bit about your government service. Where did it start?
Well, government has started with our now governor, but then Attorney General Maura Healey. I worked in the Civil Rights Division of the Attorney General's office. Was my first government job, and there I was a mediator, and so we would mediate disputes around violations of the Massachusetts civil rights law.
Okay.
And so you get fascinating stories and people that would come to you. Some of the stories were actually really harrowing, and people went through a lot. There was one instance where this kind of grocery store chain was discriminating against a person because they were Hispanic. And there was a lot of documentation and video evidence to back that up. And so we successfully mediated a dispute to make sure that their employees got training and that this person impacted got compensation. It worked on a number of cases. Age discrimination case, actually not in Plymouth, but in Plymouth County. I won't say where, but there was a dealership that fired someone because of their age.
Interesting.
And this was a guy who, he would deliver cars, driver, and basically his employer told him that they couldn't work there anymore because they thought he was too old to do the job. Can't do that in Massachusetts.
Right.
That's a violation of our one of the protected categories within the civil rights law, and so. After a couple phone calls with the dealership, he didn't want to go back at that point because he felt, spurned by the company. But we made sure he got kind of fairly compensated for that, and that the company did some training on the Massachusetts laws and regulations around civil rights.
Good. Mm-hmm. So when did you first run for elective office?
I ran for office when I was 26. I quit my job at the Attorney General's office. It seems so. I laugh because it seems like it seems so long ago to me. But I quit my job at the Attorney General's office. Public employees can't raise money to run for office. You got to raise money. And then I ran for about it was about a 6-month campaign for the House of Representatives. 5-person race. I was the last person to join the field, but ended up winning that seat, and that was for a House district that included Falmouth, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and the Elizabeth Islands, which is the smallest municipality in the state. But I did win it, Steve. I got 3 votes, and my opponent got 2. So I carried the town of Gosnold.
I didn't know Elizabeth Island. So where is that in relation to everything else?
So have you heard of Cuttyhunk?
Yes.
Yeah, so Cuttyhunk is the last of the 7 Elizabeth Islands that make up the town of Gosnold.
Okay.
The first 4 islands, maybe 5, are privately owned, owned by the Forbes family. Then there's the Pennakees Island, which is actually owned by the state, and there used to be a school out there for boys that got themselves into trouble in regular school, and so they would bring them to Pennakees. And then the last island is Cuttyhunk, which is public and There's a year-round population of about nine people that live there. So that's the smallest town in the state.
Interesting. And so when were you first elected? What year was that?
That was 2016.
Okay.
I took office in 2017.
All right. And you've been doing it ever since?
I've been doing it ever since. Yeah, I left the House a few weeks ago and joined the Senate. Was honored to be elected to the Plymouth and Barnstable district, which, for people who don't know, that's Plymouth, Kingston, Plimpton, Pembroke, and then 4 towns on the Cape side: Falmouth, Sandwich, Mashpee, and Bourne. And that was a year-long campaign. We worked really, really hard. We opened up an office in Plymouth. We still have an office in Plymouth. Plymouth's really what I view as the most important town in the district, the base of the district, the place that needs the most of my attention.
Is it the largest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's the largest town in the state.
Yeah. Well,
So
in terms of area, certainly that's
and
true.
population now, I think, as well. But ever since Framingham incorporated as a city, I think it's both now, actually.
Okay.
And so it deserves a lot of attention, not just from me as the state senator, but also from the state government in general. And it's a historic place. It's a beautiful place. And really diverse, not just in terms of geography and water and just how big it is, but also in terms of population, the people here. And so it's a really fascinating, unique community, and it deserves a lot of attention from me and from the Commonwealth.
So, what committees did you serve when you were state rep?
I served on many different committees. The last committee, I played a leadership role on the Committee on Tourism. I was the vice chair there. Played a leadership role on the Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources. And then I've served on, as just like a rank and file member, on a whole host of other committees: Mental Health Committee, Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy, Ways and Means Committee. I've served on quite a few other committees.
And what would you say was your favorite?
I mean, generally, I'm really passionate about protecting our environment, protecting our green spaces, having good water quality. I think these are fundamentals, not just to preserve our planet and our green spaces that we love here, and it's why our community is so unique between our forests, especially Plymouth, with the Pine Barrens and our ocean. Those need to be preserved, but also just those are the foundations for our own quality of life. Everyone needs access to good, clean water, and wastewater issues underlie a lot of other big issues that our communities deal with. Most importantly among them is housing. Kind of the foundation of your housing plan is your wastewater plan. So Committee on the Environment is one I've always enjoyed, and the Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy, because it does a lot of our energy policy and environmental policy there as well.
Now, when you campaigned to be senator, what did you hear out there in the community? What was concerning them? What issues?
Well, I think people are really struggling with just how exorbitantly expensive it's become to live in our region, and this is a countrywide problem as well. It's really you hear this throughout the United States, but I think it's particularly true in our postage stamp, and people are really struggling with the cost of housing. Some areas in our district, the median home price is around $1 million.
Yeah.
So how can
Plymouth,
someone?
I think, was $850 last fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so how can someone, people of my generation afford that at all?
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah.
And actually, there's been a lot of talk about people leaving Massachusetts. The people leaving Massachusetts are people in their 30s and 40s. The two things they cite are lack of affordable housing and and the expense of childcare. And so, getting at these high prices, I think, is really important to making sure that Plymouth, that our Commonwealth is a more sustainable and welcoming place to live for families. And so we want to work on the housing issue. We passed the biggest housing bill ever in Massachusetts a few months ago. That's going to take time for those policies to turn into units. And we funded childcare at the highest rate ever, and have been putting a lot of money into it. But we need to get to a system that is self-sustaining and baked in, so that we have an existing and universal childcare program here in Massachusetts.
If people wanted to contact you, how would they do that?
Well, they can reach out to me directly. My email is the best way. It's just my name, Dylan, like Bob Dylan, .Fernandes. Have you seen the movie, by the way?
I've heard about it. I'm going to be seeing it. Yeah.
Are you a Dylan fan?
I loved Bob Dylan. Yeah.
I'm a big fan too. So, Dylan, like Bob Dylan, period, Fernandes. Fernandes, the Portuguese way, or how most Portuguese spell it, with an S, at masenate.gov, and that's the best way to reach me. We do have a brand new number at the State House, but that's going to change. But if you just Google Dylan Fernandes, that number should be the first thing that pops up. And then I have a cell phone. You can reach me, 508-257-1174. Goes directly to me as well.
And if people wanted to meet you in person, where would they go?
Well, one of the first things that we did and have been doing since getting sworn in is we launched a listening tour across the district.
Good.
And we're going to every town in the district. And so the Plymouth one is actually coming up. I wish I had it off the top of my head, but that'll be on our social media pages if people want to go there and look it up. We've had several. We did 3 already this week. One in Falmouth had over 100 people at it, and then we were in Pembroke and Sandwich as well. And Plymouth, Kingston, and Plimpton are coming up in the next 10 days.
Good.
Yeah.
And so people can. And what about a local office?
We're in Cordage Park, so I should have led with that. Yeah, we're in Cordage Park, so drop by anytime. And I share an office with Kathy Lenatra and Michelle Badger, but it's right at the main kind of office entrance, right across from the little cafe in there, and it's been the office that has been kind of passed down through to the Senate and rep from the region for I think well over a decade now.
So you were one of 160, and now you're one of 40?
That's correct.
So how's that different?
It's different in a lot of ways. You have a lot more power and you have a lot more say on the Senate side. It's a lot more collaborative than the House is, and that's just a function of there's fewer people that there's fewer people that you vote with. There's fewer people that are filing and working on legislation, and so you get a lot more influence in the legislative process, and you get a lot more face time with all your colleagues, and that also helps with the legislative process. Caucuses are quite different. They're quite expansive in the Senate side, where everyone is talking and pitching in, and then sessions are a bit different too, where a lot more voices are heard than on the House side.
How many in this year's incoming class of senators?
Well, there's 3 of us.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 3 of us. Kelly Dooner is the one Republican, and then Bill Driscoll, who takes over for Walter Timilty, is district north of us, is the other Democrat.
And have you served with any of the people that are currently in the Senate?
Many.
Okay.
Almost all of them.
All right.
In some capacity or another. Bill Driscoll and I came in together as House members, and so now we're coming in together as Senate members. And then there's a lot of members, I don't know the exact percentage, probably around 40 to 50% that had served in the House at one point or another. And then the majority of the other senators I've worked with or knew based on legislation we've either filed together or had worked on together at some point in the past. So that's good. I mean, I think that's beneficial for the district. It's coming in with a decent amount of experience, knowing kind of the lay of the land, knowing the different people within it. And in my time in the House, I was able to pass over 30 pieces of legislation, not even including amendments, just 30 standalone bills. And I think it's, over time you build that effectiveness. And I think coming in with those pre-existing relationships, knowing how to get things done, will be helpful for Plymouth and helpful for our entire district.
So we're taping this in January 2025, the end of the month, and you've been in session now for almost a month. And currently we have news that at the federal level there's been some freezing for certain services that affect people in our district. And my question to you is, while normally we would go to our federal congressional delegation, our senators, and contact them if we're concerned, but if people come to you or people are local, what is your relationship with local officials here in Plymouth and with the federal delegation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think good. I mean, so we are making an effort in the first month to 2 months to meet with every town, all the town leadership in the district. And so we've had meetings with quite a few town managers at this point, including Plymouth. We had a very long session. We had a 3-hour session with the town of Plymouth. And I know all the select board members, and they all have my cell phone. And so this is what I hope is the start of a really good and collaborative relationship with the town, because ultimately I view my role as having their back on anything they need at the state level and really fighting for them at the state level. And I think a part of our, we brought the entire team down, met with them for a long period of time, talked about some potential solutions, talked about what they needed, and those are things we're working on right now. And we want to continue to have that, what I think is a really good and close relationship with them. And then at the federal level, I worked for both of our U.S. senators at one point or another, so I know them very, very well. And then Congressman Keating I've overlapped with for 8 years, so have a good relationship there. And I've found them to be very receptive. But ultimately, there's going to be things there's going to be a lot going on in the next 4 years, and so. I think it's hard. I think it's kind of a fool's errand to try and play whack-a-mole with everything and try to anticipate things out of what is going to be an uncertain environment, particularly around different types of funding, and that's kind of our chief concern. But there are some things that are higher probability events that I think we can begin to prepare for and focus on. One of those, for instance, is that it's very unlikely that we're going to get funding for the Bourne Bridge from the federal administration. And so I think we as a Commonwealth, and especially as a state center in this district where these bridges being literally in the middle of it, needs to start thinking through, what and planning for, like, what does that look like? When does the state need to step in? What would the financial burden of that be? I think those are conversations we should start having now, given the very high likelihood. I would put that as like a high probability event that the federal government's not going to be giving us funding for the next 4 years for the Bourne Bridge.
Do you foresee any bills that you want to submit as a senator?
Yeah, well, we filed around 45 of them.
Okay.
So foresee a few, foresee quite a few. There's a lot there. We're working on with Michelle Badger too on a bill that's specific. Really has Plymouth in mind in terms of school bus reimbursement. This is the largest town geographically, as we mentioned, in the Commonwealth. If it was a regional school district, it would be one of the largest regional school districts in the state, yet it gets no funding reimbursement from the state like the regional school districts do. I think we can work on and we're going to be fighting for a change to that funding formula to hopefully get some reimbursement here. That's going to be legislation filed, but we filed many pieces already. One piece is around our tourism industry, which is really important to Plymouth, really important to our entire region, and I think it's a part of our it's one part of our economy that the state has been really, in my view, negligent on in terms of funding. And if you compare us to Colorado, New York, other states, they do a significantly better job at putting money towards tourism and attracting people here. And so what we're just saying is for the room occupancy tax, which already exists, it's not it doesn't change or it doesn't raise the tax, but for that 5% that already goes to the state, 1.5% of that should go directly to fund tourism. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Not only was that support tourism, but this is people are usually staying at hotels and motels or Airbnbs here because they're tourists. So why not use that funding to attract more and ultimately generate more revenue.
What do you want to say about the state budget the coming year?
Well, state budget is the governor just announced it. Just put forward her state budget. It's part of a process. So first it goes to the House. It always starts in the House. After the governor files, the House goes through it sometime in April, and then it moves its way to the Senate, and we'll be taking it up then. It's projecting modest growth, a little over 2% growth, and so that keeps a lot of things at kind of their regular operating level. I'm concerned in particular in our district about a cut that the governor is making to inpatient beds in Mashpee, which is in our district. So we're gonna be fighting against that, and we've already been very vocal about that and let the administration know that we think that cut to mental health services in our district is unacceptable. But there are also some bright spots on it. So one of the big bright spots is around the increase in education and transportation funding, and there's going to be a lot there. And we're going to be revisiting the Chapter 70 formula, which is the funding formula back to local towns from the state for to fund public schools. And so there's money there, and we want to make sure that as that money is coming to different towns throughout the state, that Plymouth and our district has higher reimbursements.
So Dylan, what do you do when you're not serving as senator? What do you do in your free time?
I don't have much of a life, but I do. I have some hobbies. I play hockey.
Okay.
I play hockey every Sunday night, sometimes Thursdays, sometimes Tuesdays.
Ice hockey.
Ice hockey, yeah. I played it throughout my entire childhood.
Okay.
And then I took like 15 years off, and I just got back into it about a year ago. Yeah. That's great. I love hockey. It's a great sport. And then you can also catch me kite surfing. So I kite surf. Sometimes in Plymouth, actually. Yeah. Usually on the Cape, but if you get like a northeast wind, Plymouth and Duxbury are actually the best places to go.
And if you're going in Plymouth, where do you go? Off of Plymouth Beach?
Yes, Plymouth Beach or off of Plymouth Beach. Yeah.
And anything else? I know you traveled recently.
Yeah, well, after a year campaigning with, which is like 7 days a week, I really needed, after the election, I needed a break. And that timed up well with a trip. The State Department, through this, was honored to be appointed to this program for young American political leaders in the State Department. And so we went to Argentina and met with a whole host of government officials there, and it was a fascinating trip about encouraging bilateral relationships there, and they have a lot of interesting things going on there.
Dylan, if somebody joined us halfway through and didn't see the whole entire presentation, what's the one thing you'd want people to know about you?
I'd want people to know that we are here, that we're accessible, that we're in the Plymouth community, that I care deeply about this town and representing it, and I take it very seriously, and that they should reach out to me and never feel like anything is too small. If it involves the state, we're going to work to make sure that they get their unemployment, that they get their health care, that they get whatever they're seeking at the state level. And if it doesn't, we're here to connect them with the federal government, with the town, with whoever it is, to help them with whatever issue they face. So to reach out and not be shy about it.
And again, if people want to reach out, how do they do that?
My email, Dylan.Fernandes@masenate.gov. My office line, which if you just Google Dylan Fernandes, MA Legislature website, should pop right up, or is my cell phone, 508-257-1174.
Good. Well, Dylan, thank you.
My pleasure, Steve,
Thanks for
as
being
always.
here. Our newly elected State Senator, Dylan Fernandes. Hope you'll come back again in the future.
Anytime.
And this completes this presentation of Plymouth Profiles. Please join us for future presentations of this show. And I am Steve Triffletti. Good day, and thank you for joining us.